My name is Pilar Puig. I'm Innovation Project Manager at BioCat. Today's session is part of the Brain Health for Life series of conferences that have been organized by BioCat, Instituto Goodman, La Caixa Foundation, and that have been supported by EIT Health. We are going to start with a very short presentation. I will give you about how to pitch to investors, pitch decks, one-pagers. Then we will continue with Laura Rodriguez. We'll have a short Q&A session, and there will be 3 projects that will be pitching their projects, and we'll have some discussion about what they are saying, the way they are giving this speech, and the content of their pitches. So I'm gonna start by sharing my short presentation. Okay, so today I will talk about what are investors looking for in a pitch, what planet do investors come from, how to nail a virtual pitch, and about your main advertising leaflet, your one-pager, okay? If you have questions during this mini session and during Laura's talk, please use the chat, and at the end of both our sessions, we also can take your questions and try to answer them. So if you see, what I'm trying to share with you today is, in short, a marketing lesson. So you will realize that all this information that I will share are only marketing concepts. So first of all, we are thinking, what are investors looking for in a pitch? But in reality, what you should be asking yourself is, what do you want from them? Do you want to have an introduction to someone that they only know? Do you want their knowledge, their feedback? Do you want their money? Probably, yes. Okay, just think, what is your goal? But usually in a very first meeting with an investor, what you want is, can someone tell me? Can someone like Alfredo Igueras, for instance, that I know that he's here connected, what would be the main goal after your first meeting with an investor?
Well, I'm not really sure. I think we just want to get in touch with them, show them a brief view of the idea, and then we have to go down to the details, and that takes time. And
okay,
so I guess it's a process. Huh?
Exactly. So going down to the details means that you need to meet again this investor. Mm-hmm. You are not going to do this probably in the very first meeting. So you need to get to the next meeting. This is your main goal. So mm-hmm. all this presentation, you need to have this in mind, that my mission is getting a second one. Okay, so first let me share some key rules or marketing rules that I would say. Make it beautiful. Your pitch deck needs to be beautiful. Companies that have money, that do not struggle with money, they even hire a designer to prepare their deck. So it cannot be unreadable. You cannot fill your presentation with lots of text with a very small font. Only include the information that is really relevant. Only include the key messages. Do not put figures or text that you don't want to even mention. So we want to focus, we want your audience to focus only on the important parts of your presentation. Also try to simplify as much as possible. Don't use super long sentences, very complicated sentences. No, make things easy for your audience, for your investors, and say with the easiest words, what are you achieving, what you are getting, or what your solution is about. I think that investors or the audience have a limited number of neurons. So if you try to give us lots and lots of information, we will not retain everything. Give us simple facts, but relevant facts. Then you have to adapt to the time that you have. You're not going to give the same pitch if you have 10 minutes than if you have 30 minutes. It's obvious. In the very first meeting, it's very likely that it can be shorter than if you have a second chance to meet the investor that will be asking you for additional information. Adapt to your audience. So get the levels of finance and science right. If you are talking to the head of innovation the head of oncology at Roche, you will not give the same pitch than if you have to talk to a real estate investor. They don't have the same level of science, so get this right. Also, you have to tell a story. The way that we connect with people, it's not through numbers, through weird names of proteins. It's through gossip. It's through stories. This is what unites us. If you tell a story, it is very likely, or it's more likely that I will remember your story. If you only give me a list of facts, maybe I remember a couple, but try to build something that is sociable, something that helps me connect with you so that I can empathize with you. Also, use normal language. So don't try to impress the audience or the investor using words that are not part of your day-by-day language. Instead of saying, one must consider blah, 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 say, this is important to you because, so also get straight to the point and use a normal vocabulary, okay? Yes, five, practice. You have to practice a lot. The more you practice, the better. And you have to practice your pitch or sales pitch. Remember this is your sales pitch. You are trying to sell your project to an investor. All right. You know this guy, Martin Luther King. He was not born knowing, but we all remember him. Why? Many reasons. It was the right time, yes. But in this speech that day, he used a sentence in a way that really helped him connect with people. I had a dream sentence. It's not something that he wrote for that speech. In fact, he already used this sentence in previous speeches, and he was not the one that invented the sentence. Another American activist already used the sentence in the past, but the way he did it was the way to connect with people. So he used a melodramatic, prophetic voice that helped him connect with people. And he used biblical and historical references that also helped him connect with people. He was using a normal language and people could understand perfectly what he was trying to explain. He was making it in a beautiful way because he was repeating the sentence. I had a dream, blah, blah, blah. I had a dream, blah, blah, blah. Of course, you cannot do something like this in your pitch to investors. They will remember you for sure, but you shouldn't be doing this. But you have to understand that it's not only the content, but also the way you share this information with people. So here, of course, I had to share with you like a checklist of the important points that your deck needs to include. But ideally, what you should be doing is first writing a story, tell your story, and then make sure that your story includes all these aspects, not the other way around. It's much more difficult to make up a story if you already have defined in this way all these aspects. And also, it's not that you need to build one slide per aspect. No, it's not. It doesn't need to be like this. It depends if you have 5 minutes or if you have 10 minutes or 30 minutes, you will use more or less slides. But in general, you need to explain to the investor what is the problem, what is the pain point, what are you trying to solve. And this cannot be complicated. You should be able to explain it with a couple of sentences. Then you need to tell us about your solution, about your product or your service. And you need to include data that supports the credibility of your solution. Give me numbers, show me why your solution can solve this problem. Tell me about your intellectual property, about your competition. I won't believe it if you tell me that you have no competitors. Because either you are clueless, it means that you are clueless, or it means that there is no market then. And I'm not interested in your project if there is no market. So it's very, very rare that you are working in a project that has no competitors or alternatives. What is the gold standard currently? So tell me about this, show me that you know about it, and then tell me what are your competitive advantages? Why are you better? Why are you unique? Are you faster, cheaper? Can you heal many more patients in a shorter period of time? You need to make it in a very clear way, in a very clear message, why your solution is better than others. Then tell me about your market, but avoid telling me that your global market is of billions and billions of dollars. Tell me the market that you can capture. What can you get? And then, more importantly, how you will get this market. Is it through sales? Is it through distribution channels, marketing strategies? I need to see that you have think about it. Then you will share some economics. You will share your business model, meaning how will you make money with what you are developing. You will tell me about your financial projections. Then your team or credibility. So it is through your team that I will believe more or less what you are capable of. So do not only include a picture of each one of the members of your team with the job title, but give me a very short sentence about their experience. For instance, the CEO has sold a company in the digital health sector or has 10 years of experience doing research in this same field, or like the important information that makes me think that you are the right team. Very important, how much do you need? How much do you need now for your next important or big milestone? And in general, how much do you need to get your project commercialized, your product commercialized? And also, how will you use the money? Is it for research? Is it for intellectual property? Is it for HR? How will you use it? I need to see that you know what you want and how you want to spend it. Also, investors that put money on your project, what do they want? it's not that they want, so of course they want that your solution works because of the impact that can have to the population, to the world, but what they want, they are here to make money. So they need to know how they will recover their money. If they invest €1, how will they make, how much will they make in the future, and when? Will they make €2 in 5 years, or in 10 years? Will they make 10 times the money they gave you? So they need to understand what they can get back. You need to make this work for them. They will check out if it's realistic or not, of course, but you need to give already this to them. And ideally, you should include in this presentation examples of other companies that are in a very similar or comparable sector that have been successful. And you can tell them, hey, look, this other company that got investment from this VC now has been acquired by that amount of money, and they were doing comparable things to us. We think we can do the same or even better. So you already tell the investor that they are in a sector, or they are looking at a project that not itself, but others that are similar have been successful. And finally, do not ask for an NDA. Do not put spokes on your wheels. If you want to make them sign an NDA, this should happen in the following meetings, not in the very first meeting. If you are not comfortable sharing this information, like whatever information that you have, just make it non-confidential. Prepare a deck that is not confidential. But do not stop the possibility to have a meeting because of this. This checklist can be much longer. I didn't know how to stop, so here I include just a few things that I was thinking of. Don't lie. Never, like in life, never lie. But here, neither. You cannot lie. Do not say things like, we are being very conservative with our projections. Everyone says that, but nobody believes it, okay? Don't say that you will only get 1% of the market. Say it only if you also explain how, the way you will get this, like proof that you are right. Disclose your crap, meaning, are there things that do not let you sleep at night regarding your project? Investors will find out. Better if you tell them, maybe not in meeting number 1, but sooner than later, much better. And they can also help you solve this problem that you have in your mind. Be realistic, don't be arrogant, like be a normal person. If you start telling the investor that you are a great team, you are the best team ever because you have an MBA, okay, you have an MBA, good, but it's what is really important here. If you want to tell really about your high experience, tell me that you have sold your company. Well, this is more like common sense stuff. Also, headlines, the titles of your presentation, use them. Instead of putting the problem, the solution, no, use it and put an exoskeleton that restores the ability to walk. This is the description of my solution. The investor, more and even more at home, we have many, many distractions. Maybe we were not listening at you in the moment that you were describing your project or whatever. Give me like a hint with your title. And finally, the take-home messages. This is something I'm not doing it in this presentation. You will not see my take-home messages. I confess I don't do it, but I think it's a very good way to share a presentation, like the key aspects of your content. And it's where you have to put like a short list of the messages that you want the investor to remember. So it's very, very basic, but very useful, because maybe she was not super attentive to your presentation, but now she has the opportunity to have like a summary of the important aspects. And also wow effects. If during all the presentation, you can include wow effects, not only in the key messages slide, the last slide, but during the presentation, better, because you know it's difficult to retain the attention of people. I'm sure that now maybe 60–70% of the people are not listening to me, and I only have the attention of some of you. Well, here it's me that has to use a specific voice, that has to use important information to maintain your attention, okay? What planet do investors come from? So, when we think of having a first meeting with investors, we think that it has to be a scary situation in which we feel very small and they are very big. But you don't have to look at it this way. It's an opportunity for you. It's not you versus them. It's the opportunity to share your project with very smart people that can give you feedback, that can introduce you to other people that maybe in the future are interested in investing with you. So it's an opportunity. It's not something that should scare you. Maybe it's scary the very first time, but then, and I hope that after this presentation, you are not scared of them anymore. So investors, who are they? They are people with lots of money, but they are also people that cry, that yawn, that sleep. They are not God. They are real people. They are normal people with normal lives that also use their money to make more money. That's it. Well, and with VCs, the only difference between you and a venture capitalist is that he's getting paid to gamble with someone else's money. Otherwise, they are the same. So don't be afraid of investors. Last part of my session. Not last part, sorry, I forgot. Almost last part of my session. How to nail a virtual pitch. Some tips. If you have the meeting at 8 in the morning, please use your voice before starting so that we don't hear, you know, this voice when you just wake up that sometimes you don't have voice. Okay, so just talk a little bit, warm up your voice. Vary your voice, vary your volume, your rate, don't be monotone. As I told you, at home, we have even more distractions, so use the power of the voice to attract the attention of your audience. Some days before, check your microphone and your camera, clean it, like now, not sure if it was clean or not before. Have a lining, don't do a talk like this, with very, like in the dark. Make sure that you have a good lining. Check your internet connection. Try to be in a quiet room with a neutral background. These days I've seen something that I really liked. There are companies that prepare an image. On one side, they have the logo or the name of their company. And on the other side, they have either a very short description of their solution, like five words, or an image of their device, for instance. And they use this image as a background. So while they talk to the audience can see all the time the name of the project and what is the project about. So I think this is quite smart. Camera at your head level. So here now I should be putting like maybe some books. I don't have enough books, so have enough books. And try to have your eyes, like it should be like this, maybe, at the same level of your camera, and try to talk to the camera, because you are then looking at people's eyes. Better than if I was all the time looking down, right? So it's weird, but try to do it. Practice. Don't look at your notes, because it's very obvious when people are looking at their notes or reading, but also don't learn by heart your presentation. It has to be natural, because naturality is the way that we used to connect with people. Stand up. This is also something that I've seen, and I really like it. So in a virtual meeting, the company is standing up doing the pitch. I think it's more natural doing it this way than sitting down. When you stand up, we tend to be more focused. We can do more gestures. We can breathe better. I think it's a good idea to try it. Also, if you have the time, I would recommend that you record yourself while practicing. You will check if you like the voice and the tone that you are using, and the gestures that you're using, if you are looking down or if you're looking at the camera or not. It's another way to practice and to correct things. And finally, when you enter the session, remember to edit your name and also include the name of your company. Here, just a little plug. If you want to get a quality jump in your pitch, both from the point of view of the business aspects and your performance in 2 personalized sessions, we invite you to take part of the pitch training program that has been organized by BioCat and Catalonia Bio Health Tech. And it will take place in September 2021. So if you want more information, you can reach me, or in the chat, you can also contact us at Nuria Martí or Marta Soler. End of the publicity. So your one-pager. I have to run because it's super late, so I didn't adapt well to the time that I had. Your one-pager, things that you need to understand. One-pager means one page. Not everyone shares with us one page. It shouldn't be a brochure, okay? So you need to think that investors do not have much time, and it's easier for them if they have a piece of paper with the very important things about your project, and that's it. So include the name of your project or logo, the mission, the sector, the stage, potential indications, the financial needs, the contact details. Regarding the team, again, include the credibility through your previous experience. Regarding the problem and the solution, get straight to the point. And in the solution, include facts and avoid your opinions, and also include the competitive advantages. Why are you unique and why you are better? In the market, tell us about the market that you can capture. And regarding the use of funds and the exit strategy, so yes, tell investors how you will spend their money and how they will recover their money and when. And I think this is it from my side. I wish you all good luck with your projects. And now is the moment for Laura Rodriguez, principal at InVivo Ventures, and she will tell us what she expects also from projects and the evaluation process that they follow at InVivo. So Laura, please, whatever you want. Also remember that you can ask questions in the chat, and we will try to answer them after Laura's session.
Thank you very much, Pilar. Okay, if you stop sharing the presentation, I can, okay, perfect. Okay. Do you see the presentation? Yeah, perfect. So hi, very nice to meet you. I'm Lara Rodriguez. Just a little bit of introduction. I have a PhD in biotechnology. Afterwards, I work at the Technology Transfer Office at Vall d'Hebron, where I evaluated and helped a lot of different projects in drug development, medical devices, and digital health to valorize it and to try to licensing out or create companies. And then in 2018, I jumped into the venture capital firm, Head Equity. Firstly, I was an analyst. And then in 2018, we started raising our second fund, which is called In Vivo Ventures. We closed it last year. And now I'm principal at In Vivo Capital. So basically, In Vivo is a venture fund. Right now, our partners are Dr. Luis Paredes and Albert Farré. They have a first experience, as I mentioned, in Head Equity. And this new fund is a 45 million euro fund. We are specialized in early stage projects, and we are funded by private investors, but also institutional investors such as the AEF, ICO, ICF, and IDF. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the process when you start talking with a venture capital firm. So basically, we receive continuously, daily, a lot of different projects. To give you a glimpse of that, we received around 300 to 350 projects per year. And this is because we have a very big network. On the one hand, we have close contact with all the stakeholders in our ecosystem, including, of course, BioCat and other business schools, tech transfer offices. And this is pretty important for us, especially because as we are very early stage investors, we need to have a close contact with tech transfers. And we initially with Head Equity had more contacts in Catalonia, but we are now spreading into other sides of Spain. So once we receive a project, we do a preliminary analysis, and if it's in our scope, meaning it's in the healthcare sector, we could have a first meeting with the entrepreneurs. And basically, I'm going to tell you what is the most important part of the first meeting for us. So in a first meeting, what we pay more attention to is the team, the problem, and the solution. So BioCat asked me to tell you a little bit about what to do and what to not do in a first meeting. So I'm going to go point by point. In the team side, I need you to explain to the investors your experience, and as Pilar told you, you need to have some credibility. So it is important to highlight what your experience has been, and also why are you the best person to execute this project. But at the same time, you can't underestimate that you are going to need a team to execute a project in healthcare. So you are going to need specific consultants for example, regulatory or specific key opinion leaders in the medical area that you are trying to tackle. So it is important that your team is multidisciplinary. And it is also important that you have a skin in the game, meaning either you are a founder and you have equity, but also meaning that you are going to spend time helping the project moving forward. The second part would be the problem. You need to explain to us why the problem that you are trying to solve is big. And it can be big in two ways. It can be big because the prevalence is very high, but sometimes even though the prevalence is not high, such as in orphan diseases, the medical need is very big because there is no alternative solution. So therefore, we are also interested in medical needs when there is no high prevalence, but you are solving a very big problem, right? So on the one hand, you need to explain a little bit about the indication, but also we want to understand if your company is platform-based or asset-based, meaning if you have enough know-how to develop extensions of the pipeline, or you are only going to develop one unique product. This is because the value of the company will differ, and along the development, it probably will be needed to add a pipeline along the way. So it is important to understand if even when it's a platform based, I have to mention that you need to have a lead candidate. I mean, it is interesting to have a platform companies, but you need to do a proof of concept in some in a specific indication. So it is important also to have some focus. Another point about not to do, and I completely agree with Pilar about it, it's do not underestimate your competitors. You have for sure competitors. And I mean, if you haven't identified them, this is a flaw of the project, because the first thing that we are going to do after the meeting is going to global data and look for them. So there we will find competitors. Another thing that it is important, it's the numbers that you are going to use, because we are kind of tired of seeing how entrepreneurs mention very big figures in terms of market, because we are targeting the IBD market, which is billions. But you are targeting a specific indication. So you need to stratify it to your niche market. And last but not least, and for us, this is one of the most important parts, it's the proof of concept. As I mentioned, and this is something that it is important also for you to understand, most analysts in the life science field are PhDs. So they are going to look to the data, they are going to understand your clinical and your research results. Therefore, show them the results. So this is something that my boss used to say, the wow slide and the killer slide. So if you have very good results, please show us the results. But what is very, very important is that you have performed the proof of concept. If it's in drug development, you have used the relevant animal model with the relevant clinical endpoints. In the case of IBD, it is important that if you have found out, for example, a new biomarker to detect some disease, please confirm it and validate it in a very high number of human samples. And in the case of digital, please provide some clinical evidence of what you are going to solve. Regarding the killer slide, what's going to be the negative points for us to not proceed in the study of a project? So for example, normally we ask for the proof of concept to compare with what currently is the standard of care. So if you're no better than the standard of care, it's very difficult to risk and to invest in a project that won't imply a significant benefit over what it's being used right now. On the other hand, as I mentioned before, you need to identify your competitors and also show us that you have competitive advantages over them. Because if not, they will reach before the market and you won't have any market to get. And on the final side, for us, it's very, very important that the innovation is disruptive. So we don't normally invest in incremental innovations, because it's very easy to provide some benefit but not change the paradigm. So that's basically it. If the meeting goes well and you comply with all with what we asked for, then we make a decision, a preliminary decision. If you don't have all that we require, we will discard the project. If the project is promising, but there is still data missing, for example, we will tell you, okay, we like the project, but we will wait for the results next month or whenever. And the last option would be, if you have convinced us, we will proceed with the study of the project. And this decision is not trivial, because it depends on your project, but also in our investment strategy. So one of the comments of Pilar was very important about the adapting to your audience, but not only adapting, you need to know your audience. You need to know what's the investment strategy of the VC you are talking to. So it is not always so clear, but normally it's in the webpage of the VC. So for example, in our case, we normally invest in projects which are in early stage, meaning having a proof of concept in a relevant animal model. Our geographical focus is Spain, but we can also invest in other parts of Europe. But for example, we will discard immediately a project that comes from the US because it's not in our scope. And regarding the sector, we invest in all the healthcare. And regarding the size, which is also important, our normal ticket, our initial ticket is 1 to 2 million euros, and we can invest in follow-ons up to 5 to 6 million. If your company is looking for a round of 20 millions, we're not going to be your lead investor, and that's okay. But then you will need to find first a lead investor, and then we could join. But you cannot expect a smaller firm to be a lead investor of a bigger round. Another thing that you need to take into account, and that it's also in the webpage of the VC, it's the portfolio strategy. Right now we have, as I mentioned, 2 funds, Health Equity, which is now in the investment period. We have 6 companies in our portfolio, and In Vivo Ventures, which is currently in investment period. So basically, if you take a look at the companies that an VC has invested, you can understand the areas in which they have an interest. For example, in our case, we have 2 CAR-T companies. So it's an area that is of interest for us, but at the same time, if you are coming with a CAR-T in hematological malignancies, we already have 2 companies in it. So we will need to diversify and invest in other areas. So that is something that you can also learn from their portfolio. Last but not least, if you comply with all our requirements and you align with our strategy, we will proceed to due diligence. This means that we will dedicate a lot of resources in terms of time, but also in terms of money to study further the project. We are going to have a lot of meetings with you to talk about IP, to talk about the market, to talk about the clinical development. We are going to hire specialists to give an independent assessment, for example, key opinion leaders in the specific indication that are going to take a look at your project, and they are going to give an advice totally independent of you and us. We are going to hire as well IP attorneys and legal attorneys to see if there is any problem regarding IP or legal in your project before investing. So what Pilar mentioned about being truthful, right? Being honest. This is important because in the end, if you are not, we are going to find out. So this is also important, and we can, of course, also consult with advisory or scientific committees. So after everything is clear and we are sure about the investment, it is when we make the decision of investing, right? So this is also a picture of my boss. This is Luis Paredes, and he's very clear with his diagrams, right? So the company has 2 options. It might be a failure, or it might be a success, and we have 2 options as well. We can invest or not. Something that usually happens, because we receive like 300 projects per year, most times we discard projects that are a success, but I mean, this is something that happens, and we are happy to be wrong because it is good that other companies also succeed. But what we cannot do is to invest in a company that is a failure. So we don't want to have a write-off in our portfolio. So we can't afford this mistake. That is why we do a very profound due diligence. So what we want is the company to be a success and having invested. This is the quadrant that matters. So after all of this, then we go, and this is only to make you understand the process, right? Whenever everything is clear, we go and present this to our investment committee. They approve or not the investment, and then we will start negotiating the shareholders agreement. The shareholders agreement is a very important document, as well as if you are coming from a research center or a university or a hospital. For us, it's also very, very important to negotiate the license agreement. And in fact, as we are specialized in technology transfer, we usually negotiate both in parallel. So this is a key point, and as Pilar also mentioned, this is, the shareholders agreement, you need to align with your investor, and it needs to be a win-win situation. It cannot be that you feel that you've lost. So the negotiation, you are going to be able to negotiate some terms, but others, of course, it will be difficult. Why? Because we enter into a company to also having the possibility to exit and have a return of investment. So one of the things that is important also for us, for most investors, is that when we invest money, we take a seat in the board. So we are in this sense very hands-on, because apart from the quarterly boards, we usually have a very close relationship with the entrepreneur, and we help with the management of the company while we are shareholders of it, of course. But you need to have very clear that you need to understand very clear that the goal of any VC investor is to also exit the company. So that's why it's very important, as Pilar mentioned, that you have an exit strategy in place. And for us, the most normal exits are either M&A, a license agreement of one of the assets, or also going to the public market. So this would imply in a long term a return of investment for the investor. Also, it is a monetary return of investment, and it can be as well a social return of investment. So that's basically it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Laura. So some people have been asking questions while you were doing your talk. Let me go to the chat here. I'm going to read them out loud for you.
Yeah, for sure.
How can you evaluate the numbers of the target niche if there are alternatives but not an exact similar solution to yours in the market?
Well, on the one hand, what we normally use, and I understand that it's not, not everyone has this available, but we normally have global data, which is a database that it has very good numbers in terms of the market, in terms of indications, prevalence, etc. So it is not as important, the financial projections, because at your stage, everything is based on assumptions that we're not going to believe. So it's not that you need to make financial projections for us, it will come after. It's that you need to know what's the prevalence of the disease, what you are targeting, if you are helping refractory patients, or you are helping, you are going to the first line. It's more about what specific niche are you targeting, not about financial projections, at least at the beginning.
In the same lines, Mohamed Davari says, regarding the market, it is usually clear with the TAM and SAM, but how do we estimate the SOM? SOM is basically what we can capture, and it is totally unrealistic to say we know how much of the market we can acquire.
It totally is. Yeah, it totally is. That's the thing, that we are not going, using big numbers, it doesn't really make sense. But if you go and you have a very clear certification of, I don't know, you go to breast cancer, but not all the breast cancer, only triple negative, are only the ones that have refractory disease. Or your molecule is going to target one disease that has this biomarker, and you have a study where you clearly can stratify this. It's more about that than very big numbers obtained in the financials,
Okay. What percentage of selected companies fail your due diligence phase?
Meaning entering due diligence or from the beginning to due diligence?
Erwin, if you want to ask the question differently, or maybe you can answer both.
Yeah, I can answer both because I mean it's a very, very small percentage. For instance, if we take that we receive 350 projects per year, for example, this year, and this year we have been very, very active, we've invested in 5 companies. So it's, I think it's around 1.4%. So yeah, we are very strict. If it's in the due diligence, we normally discard the projects before reaching to due diligence. Normally, if we get to due diligence, 95% of the cases we invest. It's, or 90, but if we get there, but due diligence is not, I sign an NDA and we are in due diligence, no. In due diligence is, I'm hiring people as a VC to evaluate the project externally, sorry. We are paying IP attorneys or legal attorneys to review your documents. So don't confuse, I mean, sometimes it's confusing, but signing an NDA, it's not a due diligence.
Thank you very much. Does anyone else want to ask something to Laura? Now it's your opportunity. Okay, maybe, well, you can keep sending us questions and we can try to answer them at the end of the session if there are some for us. Now, Nuria Martí, Innovation Director at BioCat, will lead this second half of this session, and she will introduce to the projects that we'll pitch in a very short time.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Pilar and Laura, for this very interesting overview regarding how to pitch to investors. As you said, learning on pitching skills is challenging and certainly needs a lot of practice. I'm delighted that Laura and Pilar gave you some hints about pitching techniques and outlined the most common mistakes happening while meeting investors. It's my pleasure now to open the pitch session with 3 outstanding presentations. First of all, I would like to introduce Alfredo Miñano from Universitat Autònoma Barcelona, and I invite you to share your screen, please, and let's start the presentation. Alfredo.
Okay, thank you. Is everyone able to see the presentation? I can't hear you.
Yes, yes, Alfredo, you can start.
Okay, thank you. So my name is Alfredo Miñano, and it's a big pleasure to show you today our project, a plasma-based microRNA signature and molecular kit for early diagnosis of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's disease is the most common neurodegenerative disorder where market events happen during its progression, starting at the synaptic level long before clinical symptoms appear. And despite the tremendous progress that has been made in better understanding AD pathogenesis, there are still not detectable markers early enough that could help to find new treatments to prevent or slow its progression. So nowadays, no biomarkers are being used routinely for clinical diagnosis during the development of the pathology by neurologists. However, biofluids or imaging biomarkers start to be used in some countries, but with limitations, and it is not still intended for general clinical practice. So the problem is that they are invasive, like lumbar puncture, they have a high economical cost, and they are not suitable for routine like MRI or PET. So the better early diagnosis of the pathology that we can do, the better therapeutic window we will have. So the solution passes through finding new biomarkers able to diagnose the early progression to AD by methods minimally invasive with a blood test using a simple and cost-effective platform that let us a routine earlier diagnostic tool. So we propose a new challenging blood-based biomarker with a high sensibility and specificity. Our solution, protected by our patent, is an early diagnostic tool for MCA, AD, based on the combined detection of these 3 microRNAs related to synaptic dysfunction that mix both fundamental concepts, minimally invasive and cost-effective, providing a method for early diagnosis that will allow the identification of MCA patients that could develop AD, will optimize the recruitment of subjects in early AD stages for clinical trials, and thus will improve the identification of new and effective therapies for AD. So we provide that what user really wants, a non-invasive early diagnostic tool, affordable with feasible detection techniques. This related to synaptic proteins tool will not only diagnose specifically MCI and AD, but also would allow to follow up subjects from MCA to AD. So we solve one of the current main problems on AD diagnostic. Since our product is suitable for routine screening, reduce strongly the medical cost on a large market, and expand the therapeutic window, opening new possibilities for patients and caregivers. So altogether, this feature differentiates clearly our proposal from potential competitors working on it, what makes a great valuable proposition. So during the last year, we have been developing several actions in the valorization process to protect our asset and to get partners for its development and commercialization. So we had contact with several companies and investors, and we will continue exploring new contacts. For all of them, the validation of the asset is crucial to go further. So that's why we believe new investment will provide us the validation of the asset and to boost next steps in its maturation, reducing the risk and ensuring safely transference to the market. So AD is growing around the world and chilling numbers are expected in the near future. So this growth will increase the cost of the disease to the nations, both in public and private health systems, and will also increase the impact on Alzheimer's caregiving economies. So the Alzheimer's diagnostic market is anticipated to grow at a CAGR of around 8% over the period 2020-2027. The AD diagnostic market is further projected to attain a value of around $5 billion by 2027. So in this context, we have disposed our current financial needs in 2 rounds. With the first round, we propose to boost the startup, to validate our proof of concept with higher and heterogeneous cohorts, and to develop our in vitro diagnostic device prototype. With the second round, we have planned to move on the next step to progress to the clinical phase. We envision an exit scenario in 6-7 years after finishing the clinical phase and obtaining the CE for the diagnostic medical device. So and finally, I'd like to introduce our great and balanced team to execute our project with high expertise in microRNAs, neurodegenerative diseases, tech transfer actions, always accompanied by Cybernet, or great contacts in clinics like Fundació ACE and Hospital de Sant Pau, and of course, willing to share our project with new investors. So we are interested in generating a multidisciplinary team with high qualified tools to start and develop our business successfully in the coming years to pave the way to the market. As PI, I will dedicate 100% of my time to this project. I start an entrepreneur training program to get high qualified tools to start and develop business with the commitment to mature our asset. And I'd like to thank you for listening to me.
Okay, thank you very much, Alfredo, for this very nice presentation. And to start with the question and answer session, let me ask Laura and Pilar to share their corresponding views and vision about the projects presenting today. Laura, what do you think about the investment readiness of this project?
Hi, Nuria, thanks for the question. So to understand better if it's ready or not for a VC, but maybe it's ready or not for a VA, I would like to ask, in how many samples, in how many human samples have you tested and validated these microRNAs?
So the cohort that we have used to validate, or at least to do this proof of concept in the first assay, is around 50 samples in AD human samples. For AD, 26 for MCA, and the same number for the controls, and to check the specificity of the signature, comparing with frontotemporal dementia, another kind of dementia, for example, we test another around 30 samples with frontotemporal dementia. And
this 500K that you are looking for, how many samples are you going to test? Because you mentioned heterogeneity of samples to prove that it's really a specific.
Yeah, we are now in contact with several biobanks from different countries. So we are in contact with the NYU University in the US in collaboration with the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, in which we have a high collection of blood samples with different ethnicity. This will give us a very important point to test the validation of the signature, because the representative of the population will grow up the possibility of the biomarker. And we have also in contact with other biobank in UK that will increase of course the number. We are talking about more than 100 in each case. So we will increase in a lot the number of the total samples to the real validation in different cohorts.
That's very good to know, because in our side, I mean, as a BC, we would rather wait for the validation in a higher number of samples, for example.
Okay, and now the question is to Pilar. What was, in your opinion, the salient feature that caught your attention?
So regarding the pitch itself, there were two things that I really like. One at the very end of the presentation, Alfredo said that he's 100% of his time committed to the project. I think this is something that also Laura heard, and this is something that, as she said, it's important for VCs to know that there is this high commitment from the team. And also, I'm very happy that Alfredo has thought of including many of the important points that investors need to look at, for instance, the exit strategy. But if you don't mind, I would like to also tell them, like, give him some advice. For instance, you were reading, you were being very monotone, and you were going super fast. I had troubles to follow. And imagine that the investor is not only listening to your pitch that day, because you are being part of a session with many other presenters. It's going to be very easy for the investors to disconnect. So try to make something real, okay, between you and them. You also included lots of information in your slides, in the problem slide, for instance. You were saying things that were not included in the presentation, things that were very important. What you were saying was important, but you missed it in the presentation. So work on this content and put the important messages in there and get rid of the rest. Also, yeah, use the titles. Instead of the problem, as I mentioned, describe the problem and the solution. Okay, I think more or less these are like the key aspects that I wanted to share with you. Not sure if regarding the competitive advantages, you mentioned why you were better or unique. This is the feedback. I don't remember if you said it or not. Okay, it's not that I want you to tell me now, it's that I missed it. I know that there was a slide with the competitors there. Okay, I know that you have looked at it, but I don't know if you're doing much better or not.
Okay, thank you. And Laura, from this presentation, which would you like to know more? In your opinion, which elements of information are missing in this presentation?
For me, and as I mentioned before, we are very science-driven, so I would like to understand better if these microRNAs play a role in the disease. Why are they better than other biomarkers, as Pilar mentioned, right? Why are they better than the ones proposed by the competitors? And at the same time, are they going to be useful to monitor drug efficacy? That would be the key points for me at this point.
Okay, I don't know if Alfredo, you would like to answer Pilar or Laura?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, this is one of the reasons that why I would like to participate in this kind of meeting, because this is more or less the first or the second time that I present or I do a pitch with people related with investors to present our project, because we are we believe sometimes that we are people from the academia and markets are so far from our day to day. So, and then of course, perhaps one of the handicaps is to try to explain a lot of things in a short period of time. So yes, I think that it's clue that which is the points that you have to introduce in the slides for one hand. And in the other hand, if sometimes, even if you put some information there, maybe you can introduce other information or additional information that you are not putting there just because you are trying to explain the slide, or even the opposite. So just avoid to put too much information in the slide and then try to explain a little bit more when you explain the slide. So sometimes I'm trying to achieve a balance between which is the best option. So try to just put the basic information, but if I put in the basic information and then I link with Laura's comments about if these microRNA are really important or not, and which is the differential between other biomarkers, for example. So then I try to focus on the fact that these microRNA are related to synaptic proteins. So maybe this is because I don't know if the audience is really understanding which microRNA is doing, or which is related with the process of the pathology, to know that if I'm trying to explain that these microRNAs are acting at the synaptic level, I'm trying to sell the idea that these microRNAs are acting at the very beginning of the pathology. And this is one of the handicaps or the problems that really nowadays we have with biomarkers, that they are biomarkers that are not really good biomarkers for the disease, because when the biomarkers that we are usually using now, they are in a period, in a moment of the pathology that the pathology is the process of the pathology is too late to try to improve a little bit the function of the nervous system. So
Alfredo, this is the way. You did it. You just did it. You were talking like a normal person.
Exactly.
People, and you explain it very well in your own words without reading, and you make us understand the problem and what you are doing and the solution. That's the way. Just and write down the key messages, write down the story. What's the story? It all starts in the synaptic level. So you did it very well.
Yes. Perfect. Let's now move to the next pitch presented by Guillem Feixas from Universitat de Barcelona.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think I'm going to share the screen. For that, okay. It is okay. Okay. We created the University of Barcelona this spin-off called Mind and Identity that has developed a product, Amy, Explore Your Meanings, which is a technological platform to upgrade psychotherapy practice towards success. Mental health, you know, especially nowadays, is a key area of concern, and enhancing psychotherapy effectiveness is essential for promoting well-being. Actually, the instruments that psychotherapists use to assess personality and to make treatment plans are based on a prioristic questionnaires derived from a theory. Instead, when you go to work with a client, it doesn't always have usefulness for promoting an interesting way of approaching the problem therapeutically. we need models of assessment or techniques for assessment which are free of jargon and who are easy understandable by the person. And also, we have a tremendous barrier with young people. They are much close to technology. And the thing of sitting face-to-face with a psychotherapist is something that they sometimes don't feel comfortable with. So somehow we need to incorporate technology into the psychotherapy process. We propose AMI as an assessment system that facilitates self-discovery and self-transformation using the immersive properties of virtual reality. So AMI extracts the way you think using an interview, an automated interview, and then ask the client, the patient, to rate the characteristics that have been extracted across a set of very relevant people in their lives, the people with which they might have problems with and solutions. And then through this rating, we can use multivariate statistics to produce a graphical representation so that the person can observe out of his head what it is inside of his head. And that can be done using AMI with a 3D graph, like the one you have at the bottom, at the right, or using virtual reality, which is much more immersive and emotioning much more emotions, which facilitates psychotherapeutic change. Our business plan, our customers are psychotherapists, so psychologists, psychiatrists who want to make their practice a little bit more modern or interactive or attractive to people who are young and very much used to technology and attracted to technology. We propose a SaaS model with a subscription fee for the psychotherapists, depending on the number of licenses they contract. For example, a center with 5 psychotherapists working in that center is different than a single office. So this is a B2B. This is for psychotherapists to use it with their clients. We will offer training programs on how to use it, and also ways we will provide psychotherapists ways to communicate the advantages of the system to their clients. It's not a very sophisticated hardware solution. So we need a relatively small amount to improve our current version of the app, and a bit more for commercialization. We are now with the product ready, and we are testing it with many different types of clients and situations. And so far, the results are very promissory. Montse Sanchez joined the project that I was leading at the university, and she became both an investor and the CEO. She has a lot of experience in companies in mental health, in growing companies in mental health. She's a psychologist, a clinical psychologist herself. She knows very well the world of psychotherapists, psychiatrists, psychologists who are our clients. What do they need, and how do they spend their money, and what would be useful for psychotherapists in doing their work. So our dream is to make the work of the psychotherapists more successful, much more attractive, and we want to use technology for that purpose, and AMI is our solution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Guillem, for this exciting project. Pilar, what would be the 2 key tips you would give to this project about its pitch?
Hi, thank you, Nuria. So I had the feeling that you were reading it. Maybe this was the case, but I really liked the pace that you were using. You were calm, so you were transmitting me like a positive feeling, and I wanted to keep listening to you. I was like very relaxed listening at what you were saying, but I think that you should try to not read or memorize the information that you are sharing. Some slides had too much text, maybe. Just include the most important facts. Regarding your solution, I had just a couple of questions. First, have you validated with psychotherapists that they are willing to use it, that they are willing to pay for it? How much do they want to pay for it? Okay. If you have an answer, perfect. But I think that you should include this in your presentation. You should let us know that you have already validated this, so that we don't ask ourselves about this. And next, also, I wanted to know, how is your tool or this information that the patient and the psychotherapist gets, how does it help to improve the outcome of the therapy? How, like, I didn't get this. I just understood that your technology gives additional information and that you can see it in a specific way that helps you, but I don't understand how.
Okay, let me begin by the last question. The central issue in psychotherapy is a little bit different from other biological or psychobiological problems. We don't have like an operation that we can do, like a surgery or a pharmacology or an intervention that changes the health status, the mental health status of the person. Mental health is clearly related to a better understanding of oneself. Usually, one of the main goals of psychotherapy, which is transdiagnostic with many different categories, depression, anxiety, psychosis, etc., is increasing the way I see myself and others. Increasing the potentials of what I see and what I see as possible in my relationship with other people. So this is like a very central process, but it needs to be nailed down by the psychotherapist to the specific goal or the specific symptom the patient is presenting. So we don't have a very straightforward link to the outcome. But anybody having a general understanding of mental health will realize that we are tapping to a very central aspect, which is how I see myself and how I see others, which is related to many other problems.
Sorry, let me interrupt you here.
Yeah.
Then you need to adapt to your audience, because we are not mental health experts here. What you were describing, I think, needs to be part of your presentation. You need to make us aware that this is something very useful already for the patient, so that we understand what follows.
Yes, I know. Yes, I know we have a big problem because many people is not familiar with what's going on in mental health. It's a very complex area. It's not something that there are no biomarkers really, and it's very difficult to find them. So it's all psychological, and psychological issues are very, so how to do it in a few minutes, in 4 minutes? It's really, I think it's a challenge, and I thank you for pointing at it. And well, do you want me to go over the first question was about what is the validation that we have that psychotherapists are ready to pay that? Well, we have a validation made with maybe a dozen of people, but not a real validation. So we are going to go to market in the next month, because next week is not a good moment to go to market. But we still have some contacts for next week, but we will go to market seriously at the beginning of 2021. And we will see it in a real context. In 3 months, we will have an idea if people is ready to pay or not, because the only proof for that is to really do it and see what happens in 3 months. So we don't have that. We expect to have it in 3 months.
Okay, thank you. The last question to Laura. How do you think they can improve their pitch? Has this project forgotten anything relevant that you would like to see?
And maybe that's due to my lack of knowledge in the area, but you say that you are going to the market, but you don't need any type of regulatory approval to use this in a patient? Do you need to provide some scientific evidence, or because if not, how are you going to engage psychotherapists to use it, right?
Well, psychotherapy techniques and assessment strategies in psychotherapy do not need any particular approval, because the patient is not modifying the biological structure in any way. And the psychological structure is modified by everything. If you watch a film, that can have an impact on you. If you watch TV, the news, that can have an impact. If you have a conversation with your therapist, that can have an impact. So the fact that we use virtual reality doesn't make a very big difference on that, and it doesn't need any regulation. The psychotherapist is the one who has, our client is the one who has the responsibility to present the opportunity to use Amy with or without virtual reality with the client for the purpose of increasing their self-knowledge. If they want to use it, they sign informed consent that they agree in using virtual reality to incorporate this technique in the process. If they don't like it, they don't use it. And usually the answer is, wow, yes. I have an example of someone who was going to a psychoanalyst, and then she used IME, and then she was excited. It's so different of what my psychoanalyst is doing. And she brought our report to the psychoanalyst, and the psychoanalyst was hallucinating. He was, wow, is this all happening in 1 hour interview? I mean, it was really, but it has to do with the type of interview. It's like using a different type of questionnaire or different type of questions, because the program, to extract the meanings of the person, uses a series of questions. For example, in which way your father is similar to your mother? So maybe they are both hardworking. Okay, hardworking. This is one of the aspects that you will have in your map when you go into the virtual reality. And it will be located in a place which is relevant with respect to you, your parents, or whoever.
Okay, thank you very much. Now the next presenter is Alfredo Igueras from Galgo Medical. Alfredo, the stage is yours.
Yeah. So hello. I'd like to present you our work. It's late in the evening, but I hope I can still catch your attention. So let me just go direct for the share screen button. And there we go. And I have my watch. Okay, here we go. So hello, my name is Alfredo Igueras, and I'm a telecommunications engineer. I've been working in different sectors. I've worked in energy, in banking, and 5 years ago, I joined a company here in Barcelona. It was a startup coming from the university, and they focus on different areas. And they hired me to join a multidisciplinary team that they were doing things in an Hospital del Mar regarding stereotactic neurosurgery. And I had some background on that. All my people in my family work in hospitals in a way or another. They are nurses or pharmacists. And I also studied that specialization during my career. I went to Munich so I decided to join, and I found there a wonderful team, and they were tackling the issue of stereotactic neurosurgery. And so to introduce the topic for people who don't know it, stereotactic neurosurgery means that you want to go to a precise location inside of the brain. You want to hit that target, but only entering through a very small hole in the skull, and so you don't have a direct view on the point that you're acting. And that device, that rectilinear device that you're going to introduce, can either sample the tissue or measure electricity or do drug delivery or do a needle biopsy. So this has many advantages. It's almost the most minimal invasive it can get. And that's good for the patient that can recover early and go early home, and saves a lot of money also for the hospital, because you don't have to be in bed there for weeks for your skull to recover from a big trauma. But it poses a very strong requirement on planning. So you need preoperative planning. You need to have information about the vessels, about the skull, about the nuclear medicine, and a lot of 3D information in one point to take the best clinical decisions. So what we build is a platform that can fuse all that information together. And so you have, the first issue is multimodality. We need to merge information from a lot of different areas, but we also, there's other people doing this already, and they are very focused on the 3D aspect. And they are using this HMD like IGEM. So we don't use that because it's very immersive, no? That's something good for them. But when you use this kind of device in the clinical environment, by the way, they are using it right now. They have 2 operations going on in the Hospital del Mar. You need to collaborate. So you have the neuropsychologist, then you have your neurosurgeon, you have the neurologist, and they have to talk and make the best decision. So what we do is to provide a platform in which they can discuss. So maybe they are there for 6 hours talking a specific patient, how can they approach a specific area of the brain. And we also have some patented technology on computing the best path to avoid the vessels, no? Which is not an easy task to do. So we try to save some time, no? Some time from the neurosurgeons, no? So this is the multidisciplinary team I was talking about. So we've been working in this for 5 years now, and we have Ignacio Delgado, who is a doctor, and we have a couple of developers who are based in Singapore, because they are developing there the rendering engine, the stereographics. And we also have a chief neurosurgeon, Gerardo Conesa, who is currently operating in Hospital del Mar, and a couple of other engineers from Galgo Medical who believe in this area of the company and are willing to push forward to create a new company to tackle this development. And what we are looking for is for a companion to finance the next step of the company. We need to scale up. I'm sorry, 5 minutes. I hit the time. So we would like to tackle the regulatory issues, and we are going to do some direct sales at the beginning, but then we need to go to distributors. So we need to ramp up the whole business, and right, that's our story, our 5-minute story. So I hope we got your attention. Yeah,
Thank you very much, Alfredo, for this nice pitch. And now we have not a lot of time, so I would like to ask Pilar and Laura, how could they make this pitch more impacting? Or what did you miss about this presentation?
Pilar, do you want to
Pilar.
start? Yeah.
Okay, thank you. You mentioned that your solution is safer and faster. How much? Give me.
Sure. The thing is that
data.
You're right. Our product, by definition, it's trying to digitalize a complex workflow, no? That goes through many different stages that the neurologist take the patient at the beginning and they explore it and they hand it to the neurosurgeon, they place some electrodes and they go back to the... And so we have a lot of different points to validate our technology. No? So there's some areas where we have patents and we have published things. And there are some areas that they still need some development. So it's complicated to give a very fast overview of that. We have different areas with different stages of development. No?
But you know that with your solution, it's faster and safer.
We know that some stages are faster and safer, right? Okay. Yeah, and they are actually using it. I don't have the feedback for the award today, but the last two operations, around 12 electrodes each, one of them was computed automatically with our system. No? So that's already saving time, and another ones were adjusted with insights they got with our platform. So yeah, we're kind of confident that they like some of the tools, but of course, if you want to build the whole thing, we need to fill all the gaps, no, to make it ready for the market.
Okay. So in your first slide, which was titled Areas of Application Market Size, I think that you didn't mention it out loud. Mm-hmm. So the title didn't match the content. I would work on this first slide, and after hearing you now, I would advise you to explain your project from the point of view of the patient. Tell me about the patient journey. Mm-hmm. Tell me about what does the surgeon do and what does the patient need to do, who meets who, like the relationship among them and the different processes. And also regarding the team, you only gave us like their names and their positions, but no idea if it's a great team or not. Mm-hmm.
From my point of view as an investor, I would say on the last slide that you mentioned that you need 1 million euros, I would like to understand where are you right now and mm-hmm. what does it take you, this 1 million euros, what do you accomplish with that? And mm-hmm. also I would suggest, because for me, I mean, I always tell this suggestion, do not put your pre-money evaluation in the deck. I mean, let's discuss if we proceed in the conversation, but I wouldn't put it in the deck because you are establishing, you know, a number. But, yeah, the use of proceeds and not yet the pre-money.
Sure. And also takes time, no? Valuable time that we could use to present in 5 minutes. Maybe we shouldn't tackle that issue. But the thing is, the deck was a consensus, no? With the whole team, and we have the financial guy also taking. I'm sorry, but
no worries.
And it's not the same to pitch to an Spanish investors than to pitch to an American investor. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You can add an extra zero almost to an American one.
Okay, thank you very much. Now I would like to collect the feedback from the presenters. For that, I invite you to reflect and think out loud about how was your pitch, how good, how do you think the investors have received your message? Do you think your message was impacting and properly received by the investors? What do you think, Alfredo?
Well, I guess that maybe I was not really sharp on the important things about which is really important on the biomarker or why this biomarker is different from the others that we have. So I guess in future, I have to put more effort in make this different more clear, I guess. And the other thing is, I guess with the experience in future, for sure, I will feel myself more comfortable with the situation or with this naturality in the presentation or in how we speak with normality in front of the investor. So instead of reading, just try to explain by myself the important things on the presentation and just focus with the presentation on the important aspect of that.
Okay, thanks. And Guillem, feel free to express your thoughts too.
Okay, well, I am a psychotherapy and teach psychology and train future psychotherapists, and this is my area of comfort. For me, this is quite a challenge. So I think that for me, the purpose of this kind of presentations, if I have to do it, or maybe other people in the company would be more appropriate for doing, is to initiate a conversation. And I think where I feel safer is in a context of questions and answers where we can discuss and conversation can flow. With the 5 minutes, the flow is more difficult to generate. And I just became more aware of all those difficulties. And well, I have to work harder because this is not my stronger points. It's not in my strengths. So I have to work harder on that.
Okay, thank you. And you, Alfredo, you want to add something else about your feelings after the presentation?
Well, just to point out that this pandemic situation is very complex. So if we want to pitch, we want to say something, we want to ask somebody to do something for us. And in this context of, we cannot look into the eye, we cannot. So I think you're doing a great job to make us feel somehow like in a real meeting. And it's very nice to meet real investors like Laura that can give us feedback, because we are very lost. But in a way, it's difficult to pitch if you are not pitching for something really, no? Yeah. So I guess it was nice to know about In Vivo and see what they are investing in. And yes, well, thank you. And just one question that I would like to ask, if I have the opportunity. You pointed out that it's different to pitch here than to an American investor or American VC. Can you share something with us about this issue?
They are different. They value things differently. But if you compare, usually if you compare the pre-money valuations they give to projects in the US, it's much higher than in Spain. So for the US investors, we are cheap companies. So they look at us because we are cheaper than American companies. One of the reasons is because of the salaries as well. Or the salary of a CEO in the US has nothing to do with the salary of a CEO here. So everything is different. The market is different, and it tends to be higher, these pre-money valuations.
Okay. So finally, I would like to think why we are doing this. What is the purpose of pitching to the investors? Let me share with you my point of view. I think since the amount of money is limited, pitching is equal to competing for resources. You have to be able to attract investors. Secondly, fundraising implies, in one hand, understand their expectation. On the other hand, investors have to understand your ambition. And third, this is possible only if you are able to build a common understanding between investors and entrepreneurs. I think we have not received for this, of course, but that implies emotional connections, common interests, and not only financial aspects. Laura, Pilar, if you would like to add something, or we try to close the session because we are.
If you don't mind, I would like to say something that is common to all of them. It is that when we started the conversation, right, Guillem, when we started to talk, it's when I understood what you were doing. So it's in your own answers that you have your pitch already. Start with this, start a conversation, even if we know that you will be spending 5 minutes, 10 minutes talking yourself, think of it as a conversation with someone else.
Okay, just to finish, I'm really glad to collaborate with BioCat in this webinar. And I think it is very good that you are doing these coaching sessions, because in a way you are promoting entrepreneurship in Catalonia. This is very, very important, I think. Thank you.
Thank you very much to everyone, and in particular to Laura, Pilar, and all the teachers for your participation, on the public for your attendance. We hope the event has been fruitful and productive, attending your goals, and we are looking forward to seeing you very soon in Brain Health for live short course next week. So thanks again, and have a nice day. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.